Welcome into the SEC Pub.
All right, welcome into the SEC Pub. I'm Dale. With me, I got my guy P. Scott. What's up with you?
I'm doing well, my man. How's everything going with you?
Oh,
Appreciate you having me on.
good. Oh, good. And also the Cajun in Arkansas, Dean. What's up, man?
What's up, Dale? I'm ready for some football, man.
That's right. That's right. Yo, we're gonna get into this week. I checked out some of the games yesterday on a Thursday, but it was lit. Had a fantasy football draft going on with that Twin Peaks. It was lit, man. Okay, football season is here. I'm happy. Okay,
Opening day for both college and the NFL should just be a national holiday where it's just paid time off. That in the Super Bowl, I firmly believe it.
Are you running for president, man? Because
I was class president when I was in 7th grade, so I have experience in that type of role. If anybody can make it happen, it's me.
There you go. He's got experience with this thing. That's what I'm talking about. I like it. All right. So here we go. Let's look at some of the games that has already happened. And of course, look, I'm a big fan of the SEC, as I'm an LSU fan. And so, we got like this little sort of thing where we root for the teams, SEC teams versus the other conferences. And so I got caught up with that. And guess what? Yesterday we watched Florida just get destroyed by Utah. Did you watch this game, man?
I did. I was doing some work and watching it, and I like to pull for the SEC, especially against the big conferences. But there's something about Florida that I just can't deal with them. So I wasn't real hurting that Utah laid it out on them. They're all going to be in a panic. I'm sure there's fire Napier sites all over the place now.
They got rotating billboards about that.
I've got I got a buddy. He's sort of an LSU fan, but from Louisiana. So, and when you're from Louisiana, you follow all things Louisiana, right? So he was he went to ULL, Louisiana Lafayette, right? So
right.
He's really big into Napier, and then Napier goes to Florida, but LSU opening came up too, and he was like, "Yo, we probably should get Napier instead of getting Brian Kelly." So I don't know. I don't know about that one after watching.
I'm not sure. After the first year, it looks like LSU made the best decision. Now we'll see down the road, but right now, it's looking like it's in LSU's favor with Kelly.
Yeah.
I had Utah -5 as well, so I'm totally good with the whole Utah slander over Florida right now.
There we go. You had to pick. Let me see if my guy Evans here. He's an Arkansas fan. Evans, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear you loud and clear. How you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm doing great.
Yeah, man. Were you able to finish catching up that Florida game from yesterday?
I saw some, man, and looks like, man, Utah may have made this season on yesterday.
The Pac-12 fans look like they're proud out here because they got to slay an SEC foe. So
right,
that's big up to them. So
I guess they can be proud for 1 year because they're going to be gone by next year.
That's right.
The Pac-12 is going to be 2-pack in about 2 years.
Well, the ACC opened up going after Cal and Stanford. So it may be down. Yeah, it's 2, maybe 1 at the rate they're going.
Yep. You're right, man. So I'm looking at this Florida game, and I noticed they're giving up a ton of sacks. I want to say I counted 7 sacks. I'm sorry, 5 sacks. That's what I get. I counted up for Utah.
Okay.
Now, when you're talking about giving up 5 sacks against a Pac-12 opponent in your SEC, I mean, listen, there ain't much of a shot you got there, right?
It's wild because like it's week 1, but when I do word association with Utah, it is not pass rush. So
Right.
that like I don't want to be like the hyperbolic guy and go way over the top and say that this Florida like offensive line is trash because it is week 1. But by the same token, man, y'all better button that up because Utah should not be they should not be doing this to any SEC squad.
No, I mean LSU's offensive line last year against Florida State was not great, to say the least. By the end of the year, they had progressed a lot, and this year they're going to be a strength. But I do not see that faring well against the teams like LSU with Perkins and Mason Smith. That could get ugly against Florida.
Yeah, if you can't protect in the SEC, like you're going to get rolled over like on a weekly basis because they got dudes every week. You know, there's always dudes coming, man.
Yeah, you can't make Utah look like every guy on that roster is Derek Thomas.
Right, exactly. What is up with that? It's supposed to be the other way around when you're talking about facing the SEC. So, look at some other games. One game that stood out for me from last week, well, week 0, right? USC. Talk to me about USC, and because the player I saw is wide receiver. I mean, this dude looking like the second coming of Reggie Bush. Let me see if we can go find this guy's name here. I want to say it was Washington, but man, the guy was electric when with the ball in his hand. He had a kick return for a touchdown, a long pass too. I mean, is USC back? That's like my question. Do you think USC is back?
So I had my phone muted, guys,
Yeah.
for a moment just so I could listen in without any distraction or background noise. I'm leaving from the gym, but the question about is USC back? I don't know. I'm impressed with their quarterback, and I think a lot of people who make decisions around like the NFL, the next level, probably feel like USC is back just based on the quarterback play and the hype that's around him. But I do think there's going to be more parity in college football this year, and we'll see some games similar to that, like the Utah-Florida game, because something that nobody's talking about is the NIL. And I think that's actually going to be a distraction for some teams, and for some teams it's going to bode well. But I think that's going to be something that you have to look at as well, because are there going to be distractions in Alabama? Are there going to be distractions in at LSU and at these other programs? And so I guess my answer to the is USC back question in short, it looks like it, but it's just week 0, right?
It is. That was a week 0 game. So,
Well, it's week 0, and are they going to follow this guy up with another quarterback of that same caliber? Can they do it year after year? That's what you got to do. That's what the Alabamas and Ohio States and even Oklahoma and what LSU didn't do for a while. But are they going to be able to follow it up? If they can, then yeah, they're back. But we'll find out when they're not playing the cupcake schedule that was the Pac-12, and they're in the big whatever you're going to call it, because it hadn't been the Big Ten for about 25 years. That's
It's going
still
to be the little whatever that is.
And if the ACC adds Cal and Stanford, how can you call it the Atlantic Coast Conference?
right.
I don't get it.
Conferences are only conferences in name only. They're not, geographical conferences anymore. They have anything to do with that now. And I think that we have to just change our thought process about the way we feel about conferences and being able to say, hey, I can name the places of all of the SEC teams of yesteryear just in my mind. I just immediately I just know who the SEC teams are. But now with the changing of the conferences, man, I think we're headed to a place where it'd be 2 conferences maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right. Down the road, I think it's 2, maybe 3 super conferences, and that's going to be it. And I don't, it is what it is. it's going to happen, but come up with some creative names and ways. I was talking about this with my son who does YouTube. Come up with a name that can keep the history of the Big Ten or the ACC or whatever. But Big Ten is just doesn't make sense when you have 18 teams. So is it the Big Ten and 8 teams that are just bottom feeders for them to beat up on?
That's right.
Yeah, it's the Big Ten, and then it's the little brother 8.
That's right. Pac-Man. Oh man.
I'm with you. Like when it comes to USC, like being back, it depends. Like, are you University of Texas? We're back because you're not, or like, and I think that Eva's made a great point because on my podcast when NIL was originally introduced, the squad that I thought could make the quickest resurrection of the program was USC. And like the big markets are obviously California, New York, but we don't do association of college football with New York or the Northeast for the most part. It's in general. So I figured if there was any squad that was going to be able to turn around quicker, just because one, the talent, two, the money being thrown around, and the name brand, USC was the squad that if they were going to do it quicker than anybody else, it was going to be the Trojan. And it seems like they are on the way to being back what we like the perennial every year, like USC is a top 5 squad. And I do think that they are in that market right now.
But can they be back and with this kind of defense? Because they gave up close to 400 yards total and gave up 28 points to the San Jose State.
And there we go. That was the key question, and that's what I was waiting on somebody to harp on. Dale, I totally agree with you. These teams can be back, but what does back mean? Does it mean for them locally back or in their backyards back? Because we know that if you're giving up 38 points to a squad like they played on last week, and then you get into this playoff situation where you have to face an SEC squad who can line up and punch you in the mouth. No, back is going to be pretty embarrassing if you're considering that back. You have to be prepared to stop somebody, and I think that's the thing about the SEC that's all the difference, man, is our ability to defend. And I say our because I live in Arkansas, I guess, but I didn't play in the SEC or anything. But just being in the SEC and being a SEC fan, you have to be prepared to stop somebody, man. And so, they can be back playing in that division, but not in the playoffs, not with that defense.
Well, and you're going to give up yards in today's football game. You're going to give up yards and points,
100%.
but you've got to be able to make a stop when you need to make a stop. 2019, LSU's defense wasn't great, but they could get a key stop when they needed to. They could get a turnover, and then they had the prolific offense. I don't know that USC, against what they're going to be playing next year, week in and week out in the Big Ten, is going to be able to do that. Not for a couple of years, and not until they get some more size on their lines.
Yep. Let's look at some of the games we got coming up this weekend. South Carolina is at North Carolina. Let's see. North Carolina is a 2.5-point favorite here. Anybody got any insight on North Carolina? Because I mean, look, it's a pretty close matchup, being state by state with each other. So my guess is like you could throw all the stats out because it's going to be a close game, and I think Vegas is saying the same thing too, with it being a 2.5-point spread here.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about what North Carolina's got, and I wasn't a big Spencer Rattler fan, but he had a great year last year.
Right.
And when you've got a coach whose last name is Beamer, you've got something that could put you in any game.
Yeah. So is Spencer Rattler, you think he's the truth as a quarterback?
I got questions around Spencer Rattler, guys, if I can interject right here.
Okay.
Spencer Rattler has arm talent, but when I think about him playing the game and the scores matter and not just watching his arm talent, I think about Jameis Winston in those high turnovers, man. He
Okay.
does have a talented arm, but I think he had as many interceptions as touchdowns last year, and those sort of numbers, man, and that turnover ratio in the SEC, it doesn't bode well. And I kind of like North Carolina going into this game. Actually, I'm a big Beamer fan as well, but I think special teams when I think about the Beamer family, and not just necessarily
Absolutely.
offense and defense. But I know that North Carolina won 9 games last year, and they've done a really good job recruiting. And so I have North Carolina favored in their game.
Ooh. Okay. All
And
right.
and that's a decent call. I agree with you. You just don't know what Rattler and exactly
Right.
what you said. You don't know what you're going to get. You could get what he did at the end of the season, what he did against Tennessee, and pull off some wins, and against Clemson, or you could get what he was doing early in the season, and it could get real ugly real quick. He doesn't have that consistency. I don't think that puts him anywhere in the top half of the East, at least, or maybe right around the middle of the pack SEC East. But he doesn't have the consistency he needs to be a big time quarterback.
Hey, if it was 7-on-7, I take South Carolina over North Carolina, but this is gonna be some full I'll go 11-on-11 football. And so for that reason, I like Rattler in shorts, man. I like him working out. I like to see him throwing the ball against into the tires and trash cans and placing the ball. But just against competition, when you got people bearing down on you, man, he's in question for me then.
I agree. He has his moments, but he also could go bad. Not everybody is Brett Favre and can take that arm talent and put the ball in those slots and say, "Oh, well, I threw an interception. All right, give me a second. I'll come back and I'll throw 2 touchdowns right here." You
It's
know,
hard, man.
And
It's
then
pretty
one more
hard.
interception.
Yeah.
So is that the game, or Dale, that you guys are kind of excited to see on tomorrow? Because there's been there's been a hush around it. I know we're talking like some SEC ball,
Right.
but there's a matchup that I'm really, really excited about tomorrow, and I think it's going to be my game of the day tomorrow because
What
I'm
is that?
excited. It's this buzz that's around Deion Sanders and Colorado going over
Okay.
to
Okay.
TSU.
Coach
Guys,
Prime Bowl.
man, Coach Prime, man, the guy he just believes winning, man. He believes competitiveness. We've seen him compete on the field, and he's a guy who ages us because we came up watching him. He was my first pair of $100 tennis shoes that I could actually afford
Uh-oh.
in 7th grade when he was a dual sport star, with Atlanta
Right.
Falcons and the Braves. And I'm just a huge fan of Deion, and I'm a huge fan of Prime. I like him as a father. I like him as a leader. I like what he did for the HBCU, coming and playing, coaching there at Jackson State.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about what he's going to do up at Boulder, guys. I don't know if you guys have had an opportunity to visit Boulder, but I feel like if Deion can get kids on campus in Boulder, Colorado, to see Boulder, Colorado, I think he has some recruiting tools, man, that'll bring and attract some kids, man, because it's a place so beautiful that a lot of these kids, they hadn't ever seen anything to the liking. And to get an opportunity to play football there and live there, I think is going to be, it's going to help Deion in terms of recruiting. And so I'm excited. I want to see. I'm actually pulling for Colorado on tomorrow.
Okay.
Especially when you look at of course, the old deodorant is winning, right? Like that's what John Madden said. So we come to the point where if they win, then yeah, he's going to create a bigger buzz, because right now, like, we're going off Jackson State because it was a smaller school and there was a lot of success there. But what they'll do is if they continue to win, or not continue because it'll be his first game, but if they win and you have the brand of Deion Sanders, we might see that Colorado that we used to see back in the day with the Cordell Stewarts and the Rashawn Salams. And then at that point in time, maybe they can, be back, for lack of a better term, that we used earlier.
I'm looking at the line for this game. Colorado is a 16.5-point dog because they're playing at TCU here. So you're saying you'll take those 16 points, right? Right? May I have it?
Well, yeah, I'm going to throw points out. I'm going to throw, statistics out. I'm going to say that Dion, there's room for Dion to call Texas his home as well. His sons, you have to think about it, man. He raised his boys there in Texas. And so it's a homecoming of sorts for him. And so I don't think that Dion is going to be afraid of anybody. And I think those are some factors that Las Vegas isn't considering, and the potential for his boys to go down and play against maybe some high school buddies and some high school rivalries and that sort of thing. And when you know people, you don't have a fear of them necessarily. And that's why those in-state games, that South Carolina, North Carolina, it makes sense for it to be a close game. It makes sense for Auburn, Alabama to be a close game. And you like those games early in the season to see what your kids have. And so I think it's going to be a homecoming of sorts for Prime. And so I'm excited about the game.
I think you're right. I don't think there's anybody that's going to be afraid of anything on the Colorado sideline. If you're afraid of something, Prime's not going to keep you. If you don't believe in yourself and your team, he's not going to keep you. I love what he did at Jackson State. I love what he did. He brought his team over here to the Central Arkansas area to play a high school team when he was coaching high school before he went over to Jackson State. He loves to talk. He loves to hear himself talk. And I think them being good will be good for college football.
Absolutely. And I think that just shows. Go ahead, Dale. I'm sorry.
I've got a buddy that's a Colorado fan, so he'll be happy to hear this.
Yeah.
If you're giving me Colorado plus 16.5,
yeah,
I'm absolutely taking that money.
Okay, there we go. We on Prime here.
I mean, you're talking Prime. He is going to put up some points. His son is not a bad quarterback. He is. Right. He could have been D1 to start with, but he wanted to go with his dad. He's got the talent, and Dion knows how to win. Now, I want to address something I thought was funny listening to Prime and then Danny Cannell going back and forth about, I'm not a Seminole. I graduated from an HBCU.
Yes.
But now then you coached at HBCU and you left. So are you still an HBCU, or are you a Colorado, Prime? I love how he likes to keep talking out of both sides.
Hey, he's a marketing machine, man.
Yeah.
And I think we have to take this into consideration. Prime took it personal not getting the opportunity to have that shot at Florida State. And I think that's kind of what that means, right? I think that's the first time that Prime has probably been declined anything at any level since becoming a professional, and he took that to heart. And it just kind of it's rounded, guys, because you think about it. The Florida State coach, I can't think of his name right now, but Norvell. He played his college ball here in Central Arkansas at UCA. And so Dion doesn't think of nobody from Central Arkansas should be able to get a head coaching job in front of him. And I don't think Florida State actually even considered.
Nobody from Central Arkansas ought to even carry his luggage, according to them.
Exactly.
And I love what he did for the HBCUs growing up in Baton Rouge. Yes, I'm an LSU fan, but I followed Southern in the newspaper just as much as I followed LSU. It was Baton Rouge. I mean, and I was following them. And so what he did in those years at Jackson State to get people to realize just how much talent is at those schools was awesome.
Absolutely.
Help put everybody on the map. Now we've got some of those games on ESPN and Fox and stuff. So
that's where they should have been to begin. I mean, you should have more than just a couple, the Southern Grambling and all that. They always had a sprinkling.
Absolutely.
Those guys are good.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm excited, guys. Colorado, they hadn't sold out, their season ticket sellout since, in 20 years, since the exit of the Cordell Stewarts and the running back Rashawn Salam, those players. So Dion now has a sold out stadium. All of those things are going to motivate kids and motivate the program. You have the NIL and you have some opportunities to go out and get some money. I think his son signed the NIL deal and was able to buy him like a Maybach Mercedes or something.
Yeah.
During the summer camp. And so that's the X factor, guys. Don't be surprised if people that we're not familiar with beat other people and you see some things. This has the potential to turn college football into
Oh, yep.
The melting
Yeah.
pot of what we actually won instead of just
Uh,
having the juggernauts all the time.
Absolutely.
I think that's what he was going for before we cut out.
Yeah. There is going to be a lot of parity, and you look in places like Texas. So all that money in Texas, because I went to school there, there is a lot of money in that state. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
all fall to UT and Texas A&M. The
Oh yeah.
TCUs and the Houstons, they're going to get a lot of money, and there is a lot of NIL floating around the state of Texas. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes over the next couple of years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the matchup. And the next matchup we got is Arkansas, and they're playing against Western Carolina.
Yes,
Catamounts? I've never even heard of this before.
I've heard of them in basketball. They make the basketball tournament fairly regularly.
Okay, all right, there we go. There we go. So Evans, talk to me about Arkansas. How you feeling about them this year?
I'm very excited about this Arkansas team, man. I think KJ Jefferson is definitely want to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Arkansas has recruited and had, competitive running backs to be, considered for the Heisman Trophy every single season, and so Arkansas will be too strong for this team on tomorrow. I think a lot of it, you know, I like Arkansas big in the game, but I'm wondering how they'll play or if they'll give up a lot of points based on, what the fan base will look like tomorrow in the stadium because of who they're playing.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I agree with that because I was watching the news the other day and they said like 12 or 15 sections were sold out and the other ones were half filled. I'm like, you're getting a chance. Everybody in central and southern Arkansas wants a game in Little Rock, and you've got it, and you can't sell out a 50,000 seat stadium. If I'm the AD, I go, no, we're not coming back. You don't sell out, I'm not sending them back. It cost us money.
Absolutely.
Wow. Some big issues going on with Arkansas. So, but what do you think the overall record will be for Arkansas this year, Evans?
I think I like them for 8 games this year.
8 games this year. Okay. All right. We got the big one for me because I'm an LSU fan. We got LSU at Florida State. The game is going to be held in Orlando at Camping World Stadium. Dean, I know that you follow LSU pretty well. We're going to be missing some of the players. Big loss is Mason Smith. Talk to me about LSU, Dean.
Well, I think they developed so much depth on that defensive line last year with Smith out all year, and everything I've heard from Kelly with bringing him back, there was a good chance he wasn't going to get to play. That is going to hurt. Florida State does return a lot of starters. They have some power in offense, but I think defensively, when you see Harold Perkins turn loose, who did not play at all against Florida State, and after the game, after the season, we're like, we really could have used him in that game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I'm very confident in LSU. As good as USC's quarterback is, I don't think there's a team in the nation that has any 1-2 punch at quarterback with as much talent and experience now with Nussmeier getting to play some last year that they return. I think Jaden Daniels has the potential from everything I've read and about how things have gone and what he's been doing to make a Joe Burrow type jump from season 1 at LSU to season 2. Not saying he's going to be the Joe Burrow 2019, but I don't think he has to be. I think we have more defense this year. But I think we're going to see him be a much better passer than he was last year. Our offensive line is one of the best in the country. I'm ready for this year to get started. I think LSU wins by probably 10 Sunday night.
Okay, I'm showing the line as Florida State is a 1-point favorite. What do you think, Evans? 1-point favorite, Florida State?
When guys start throwing around names like Joe Burrow at quarterback for LSU, it makes
Yep.
me stop in my tracks and think about it, man. Probably the most talented quarterback as a tough guy and decision maker there at LSU that I've seen, in a lot of years. I think he's one of my favorite college quarterbacks ever, in fact. And so if LSU was taking somebody down there with some Joe Burrow DNA, I'm gonna like LSU against Florida State. And as always, I'm gonna cheer for the SEC squads against everybody. SEC against everybody.
Yeah, this should definitely be one of the best matchups for the season, for the week. This is like a top 10 matchup in
The only
week
top
1.
10 matchup of the week.
Yeah. So, P. Scott, you got us picked this week, or what's going on?
The thing that I'm always worried about is, especially when it comes to the first game, is the jitters of young kids, basically, because they're 18, 19 years old. And when it comes to these types of matchups, especially in the first week, I'm looking at who's the home team. And if it's that close, I know that I think they're LSU's number 5, and I believe Florida State's number 8. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, when it comes to those types of environments, I'm always thinking the home team, I'm feeling more confident just because of the environment. And it's this is their first time being in that kind of space, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. I'm not saying that LSU can't win this game, because obviously if you're ranked number 5 in the country, you are talented as all hell. But if it's that close of a line, Vegas thinks that these guys are pretty evenly matched. And at least for like the first game, I'd rather take the home team, just because I feel like that environment is going to be more substantial for Florida State than it would be for LSU.
Yeah, I feel what you're saying, but there was a game between these two teams last year, and
Yes.
I think LSU's got payback in mind. So I know they're traveling to Florida, but you know what? Home field advantage last year, I thought that was going to be a major thing because they played in the Superdome. So I mean, LSU take the bus to the game, right? So I thought we were going to have a big major advantage, and it was not the case. It was just about split. So I'm expecting the same thing in Campbell World Stadium, because LSU's fans are going to travel anyway. But it's Orlando. Of course, they're going to Disney World. Yeah, that's the easy ticket.
Holiday weekend.
Everybody turns into Phil Simms right off the bat.
It's an easy ticket to obtain. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pick LSU, but definitely going to be a close game. I don't think this is going to be a double-digit game at all. So I would take the points if you're betting it, for sure. So, guys, look, I appreciate you joining us for the SEC Pub, and hopefully we can talk some more college pretty soon with you guys.
Sounds great.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thank you as well, Bill. That was a lot of fun.
Remember to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at BS Sanbia Media. Also smash the like button on YouTube and share with friends.